Okay. Hello, everybody. This is the Supporter Hashtag Creatives Room via StreamYard. We're here every other Monday, pretty much. And today's guest is Chen Drachman, award-winning actress and filmmaker. So, Chen, why don't you introduce yourself?
I mean, your lower third kind of says it all. Yeah, my name is Chen. I'm an Israeli-American actress, writer, producer, all of that good stuff. I've been here in the States for 14 years, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, that's the short of it.
Okay. So tell us how you got started in the entertainment arena.
So I was actually, in Israel you pick majors in high school, and I was actually a film and TV major. 10th to 12th grade, all throughout high school. And we got to pick specialties. My specialty was production and script writing. I really fell in love with that. And I think over the years, just by being like an avid TV viewer, that kind of developed. But I also really loved musical theater. And it's funny because we didn't used to have so much of it in Israel. We have more now. But I was singing choir all throughout, I think ever since second grade, all throughout school. And I just really enjoyed it. So thinking about combining that with acting was really nice idea. And then I came here to New York and went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, their musical theater program. And when I graduated, I kind of went back to my roots and combined that new thing I learned called acting with what I already knew from behind the camera, and kind of evolved in both directions.
How'd you find out about AMDA?
I had my teacher. I had a teacher in Israel. We had like a musical theater group, and he was an alumni of the school. And a lot of the people he taught ended up going to study there. So by the time I got there, I think every single semester I had at least one Israeli student, and I think it remained that way ever since. And I graduated like in 2011. So it's been a long time, and yeah, there's a lot of us over there.
Okay. Let's talk about the Book of Ruth. Yep. Yeah. So first I want to say is that I met Chen due to the Book of Ruth. Filmmaker Lisa Tedesco, and she's based in Connecticut. She actually introduced me to you in a sense, and because she was interested, trying to get people interested in becoming a part of the Book of Ruth. So that's how I started with Chen, and I got to understand the concept of the Book of Ruth, and I really enjoyed it because basically it reminded me of the seders I used to attend as a child. So I decided to get involved.
And it's great because it's meant to also elicit some sort of a sense of, something nostalgic. I think each one of us, the filmmakers, director Becca Roth, myself, producer Caitlin Gold, I think each one of us kind of put in a little bit of our own seders in there. So it was meant to kind of like, give you that sense of familiarity. So that's nice. Yeah. And I'm so glad you got involved. If I remember correctly, you supported it. And then one of the perks for the supporters was a video of our live read that we've done about a year before the actual shooting. And I think you saw that, and then you decided you want to support even more. So you added another donation. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, definitely our relationship has grown and supported, you in more than one project, and even in potential projects where I had the opportunity to comment on the script or whatever. So yeah. I'm glad to have that opportunity to have some artistic input. Yeah. So tell us about the Book of Ruth.
Well, hold on. I think there's somebody here who wants to say hello.
Oh.
He doesn't
like another guest.
Yeah. This is Atsuki. And I'm not going to keep him up here for long because he doesn't like being picked up. But he came to say hi. And I'll give him a pellet so he won't be mad at me. There we go. Okay, there we go. After this lovely break, people bring their pets to calls all the time. It just happens that mine is a bunny. So the Book of Ruth, I mean, it was quite a journey with the Book of Ruth. I think, I'm trying to remember, I think 2015, I read this research by the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam, and they were obviously at this point, we're going to have spoilers, but the movie has been out there forever and ever. So we're just going to, the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam released this research about how Anne actually died at a date that was different than what was originally assumed. And that was based on new eyewitnesses. I mean, obviously people who were old, but their testimonials were new. So their account of the events was new. So they stepped forward, and that kind of made me think about scenarios in which you could still be alive today. Because there was this one media outlet that reported about the research, and they made a grammatical error that made it sound like her fate was unknown. So that kind of like launched this whole thing in my head. What kind of person would she be if she was alive today? Where in the world would she choose to live and why? How would her dynamic with her family be like? And why wouldn't we know that she's alive? Because I wanted it to still be rooted a little bit in reality. And honestly, it's very interesting because one of the main things she said in the movie is like, if we find out that the lead character, Tovah Feldshuh, the incredible Tovah Feldshuh, who played my grandma in the movie, we end up finding out that she's actually Anne Frank. None of her family knew. And one of the main things she said is like, if people knew I was alive today, they would not be happy. They would be mad at me for hiding all this time. And as a Jewish person, in light of everything that's happening today, I feel like that character was not wrong. That notion was not wrong. There's already so much disbelief for the account of Jewish people. So it's weird to me because I always come back to these lines of dialogue that I wrote in 2015, and I think, oh God, like it remains relevant for the worst possible reasons,
Yeah, I guess it does.
Not to be a downer, but yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about the importance of getting a known actress in the role.
I think it makes all the difference in the world. And, I know we wanted to speak a little bit about also the state of Hollywood these days. And again, not to be a downer, but even the arena, let's call it, or the space of independent film festivals changed so much. It's like so many films today have name actors. You go to a film festival like Tribeca and so many known people. I wish I could say it was enough to have a good story. For a lot of the bigger festivals, it's just not enough. And what I always say about like the Book of Ruth, or about getting a name actor, is that let's say there's three slots in a festival, right? And you and another one are competing for the 30th. Did I say 3? I meant 30 spots in a festival. And let's say you're competing with another one on that 30th spot, and you score the same, but you have a name actor. You're the one getting in. So we can't. This is the good and the bad. This is the good and the bad of that reality. So if you're fortunate enough to get a name actor, amazing. Because obviously also there's a lot that comes with it in terms of prestige and stuff. But the downside is acknowledging that if someone can't afford it, and it's not always a financial thing. When I say you can't afford it, can be logistics, it can be scheduling. If you're not fortunate enough to afford it, you're not, I think, being considered equally. I had festivals who told me, you had me at Tovah. And I'm like, I knew it. As a scriptwriter, it might not be the thing you want to hear because you want people to enjoy the story. The matter of the thing is that they enjoyed both. They enjoyed the story and they enjoyed the performance, because I don't think one would have got us accepted without the other. But considering that was part of the strategy, it made me feel like I made a right call pursuing this path.
Yeah. I mean, Tovah Feldshuh, she's such an amazing, actor, and having her in the story was just so perfect, I think.
Yeah, her performance. Yeah. I think this is the thing people comment about the most, how nuanced and moving her performance was in the movie. And I agree completely.
Yeah. That's really fantastic. Yeah. So, is this for those who haven't had an opportunity to see it? Is this a feature or a short film?
The Book of Ruth is a short, sorry, and it's actually available on Omeleto. But I know we're gonna put some links down, and if you go to my website or you go to the Instagram, Grace Dragon Productions, then it's very easy to find the link to the movie. It's available. It's out there. It's been at the film fest. It's been at the circuit for about 2.5 years, and then a little over a year ago we put it online. And at this point, I think it had more than 150,000 views. So yeah, very proud of the journey.
Yeah, and you mentioned the film festival route. How did you decide to go that route? I know there are different ways that filmmakers try to distribute their works, and what made you decide to go the film festival route first?
I mean, I never thought it never occurred to me not to do it, because especially with shorts, and again, I'm trying to be very honest about the process too. You're not going to make any money out of it. If it's on some sort of an online platform, it's probably there for free. You're not getting any residuals or anything like that. Me as a storyteller, what I really care about is that as many people as possible see my story, right? So, and also a chance to travel a little bit to places in the States and outside too that I've never been to before, and meet new communities and new people. But it was always clear to me that I'm going to take it to festivals, the more the merrier. Strategy changing a little bit now for But I'm a Shoe, which is my second film, not in the sense that it's still going to festivals. It's still the thing I'm most excited about. Just change kind of like the strategy to which festivals to submit and stuff like that. But yeah, and it's like, this is, I think artists really want that live in-person reaction, and going to festivals is really the way to get those interactions.
Yeah, and once again, how long was Book of Ruth in the festival circuit?
Yeah, but I think I said about 2 years, something like 2 years,
Okay.
2.5 maybe. And it was during COVID, so it was very challenging because the entire first year was just online. So that's the way to, and it's it's a debut film, so like experience the festival circuit for the first time like that. It was but second year I just went to as many of them as I could. So yeah.
Oh yeah. So this was your first film then? Wow.
I didn't direct it. It's such a weird thing when something is yours but you're not the director. So in terms of the way the community looks at it, the industry looks at it, it's like they're going to the director. But in reality, it was my film. So I'm always like, even now when I submit to festivals and they ask, is this a debut film? I usually mark yes, because it's my first time directing, or rather my first time directing since high school. But it's also not my first film. So it's a very weird limbo. Like, I never know how to answer that question.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting point about being director versus not, and how you classify yourself in terms of your association with the film. It's an interesting point.
I guess I just say I've been the lead filmmaker on this project, and that's like on the one hand vague, on the other hand, oh, I see the sun is back. Sorry, folks who are watching, I cannot control nature, but it will be done soon, and then my face will look slightly more normal. Yeah, so it's saying I'm the lead filmmaker. On the one hand, it kind of solves the problem that people know I'm the go-to person to talk to about this. On the other, it's very vague. People don't know what it means. So this was part of the reason why I wanted to direct the second one about Emma Shoe.
Yeah, but we'll be talking about that in a little bit. Yeah, and as I said, this is my first time working with Chen on the Book of Ruth, and I got the interesting credit. I thought it was really interesting credit. He called me a donor producer, and that's something I'd never seen before. But anyway.
Yeah, and again, I think that's also part of like things you learn throughout the process, because we had producers who have done the job of a producer, and at the same time we had donors who received producers credit. Nowadays, like, we will put them as EPs. It's very, but it's like one of those things that you kind of learn along the process, including what would I do differently in the credits, so yeah.
Well, most of the behind the scenes credit that I get on projects these days is an executive producer.
Is it what?
executive producer is the
Right,
kind
and I think that's what we've
these
done.
days. That's what I usually get.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what we've done with But I'm a Shoe. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Alan Greenstein. I'm the founder of the organization Support Our #Creatives. The goal of our organization is to level the playing field for underrepresented artists such that they had the same opportunity as everybody else to get their projects seen and distributed. I'm also on the board of directors of the Bella Levy Foundation. The goal of the Bella Levy Foundation is to fight human trafficking and provide a safe haven for its warriors. So before we continue our discussion, I'm going to have a brief commercial, and we'll be right back. I'm Alan Greenstein, founder and producer at Support Our #Creatives. At Support Our #Creatives, I offer a number of services to support those developing a project. Check out the services tab of my website at supportourcreatives.com. If you are interested, please use the contact tab on my website or email me directly at alan@supportourcreatives.com. And we're back. We're back. I always like to say that. So, okay. So you mentioned, but I'm a shoe. Let's talk more about that. Okay. How did you come up with this concept? It's something totally different, as we like to say. Now for something totally different.
Yeah, I know. Just I keep thinking about festival programmers who program the Book of Ruth, and they're like, "Oh, this is the new film from this filmmaker. I wonder what this is about." And then they get something so different. So I guess we should talk about the concept a little bit first. So basically, it's this girl who really hates air travel, and so she uses a new service called Objectified Travel that basically turns people into objects of their choosing for the duration of the flight. The goal being, oh, if you're an object, you're not going to feel nauseated during turbulence. You're not going to have to use the bathroom. You're not going to have to deal with the food, the muscle ache, the cramped space. It goes very badly, as one can expect. And in terms of how I came up with it, I was actually one of my favorite film festivals. I was at the Sedona Film Festival. Sedona is absolutely stunning, and it's a great festival. I really recommend it. The downside is it's not a great place to be if you're not a driver. And so I had to land in Phoenix and take a 3-hour shuttle. And I also had to leave in the middle of the night to get back to the airport when I was leaving. So I think I came back from like the closing night, and the thing is that the award ceremony was the day after. I missed it, and we won, of course. So, but I was packing to leave. I had, I think, a 3 a.m. wake-up call for a 4 a.m. pickup, the shuttle to go to Phoenix for an early morning flight. And and this was the second time that month that I was, I would say the West Coast. I guess Arizona is like technically not West Coast, but because I was I was there in California earlier that month. So finding myself flying twice in the same month to the other side of the country, packing it for a 3 a.m. wake up call. I'm just like, I cannot even fathom getting on a plane right now. And I was starting to think, exactly that, the small space, and I was like, oh my God, I wish I could turn myself into a small object. And then and just for the duration of the flight, not to deal with anything. And then I was like, what object would I turn myself into? And I was like, I would turn myself into I would split my consciousness between two shoes so I can kind of like step, and then the TSA officer would be like, shoes off. And I'll be like, but I am a shoe. And, this is really the delirious conversation that I was having with myself and, packing in the middle of the night. And I remember asking myself in real time, is this something? And I'm like, nah. Then I got home. And a few days later, I'm like, now that I'm actually conscious and energized, I think this might have maybe been something. So this is the very weird way in which it was born, out of exhaustion and bitterness about air travel. And here we are. And we used animation because, mostly it's like 70% animated, 30% live action, because how else are you going to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can certainly relate to that. I mean, I don't fly that often, but every time it's a real pain. And especially having to take your shoes off, for example, or take your belt off, or maybe you could have decided to be a belt instead of a shoe, but still, I think a lot of people can relate to that. So tell us about the challenges of having doing an animation type project.
It's very interesting. Well, first of all, I have to say that the incredible person who stars in this movie is Janet Varney. I originally wrote this role for myself, and then I was like, wait a second, but I know my favorite voice actress, because she voiced Avatar Korra in The Legend of Korra, which is the spin-off of Avatar: The Last Airbender, very popular show, and she's one of the nicest people ever. So, so in terms of challenges, I think my roommate's home. Maybe I should put maybe this is my cue to use my headphones. Unless she'll go to her room and stay. Let's see. But I'll keep talking in the meantime. So in terms of challenges, it's true. I mean, initially I was like, I knew that I wanted to direct my next film for all the reasons that I mentioned before. I never thought it would involve something like this. And so I remember thinking, do I really want to do this? Because what business do I have after not directing for like almost 2 decades, having my first time back behind the camera being something that involves animation? But I guess at the same time, I thought, it was going to be a challenge regardless. And I'm assuming that if I rely on good professionals, the people around me, the team around me, and don't feel too like, let's call it like ego driven to ask questions, I think it could be okay. And of course, I read a book about directing, and I sat down to create a really thorough storyboard, which was its own experience because I cannot draw for the life of me. So I kept uploading snippets. I'm like, this looks so creepy. But it was exactly that, because funny enough, I was going to film it in Waco, the live action bits. The reason being that, it used to be the Deep in the Heart Film Festival. Now that they're the Waco, this is the first year that they actually changed their names to the Waco Independent Film Festival, I think. Another one of my absolute most favorite festivals. And I was there second year in a row with the script at the script competition. And as I was there, and I was like, I need an airport for this. We've done this tour. They do it every year for the filmmakers. It's kind of like a film location tour to encourage you to come and film there. And you see all these places that could potentially be used for certain things. And I was like, what about your airport? And they're like, it has 2 gates. And I was like, perfect. I cannot imagine for the life of me managing any of the New York area. I cannot see anyone signing off on this. So we ended up working in Waco. Now, what was interesting is my animator, who I've never met in real life, though obviously we've spoken many, many times. He is originally from Waco, even though he's in LA now. And the way I got to know of him is because I saw his film at one of the 2 festivals that I went to. And I was like, this is the kind of whimsical essence that I need for my film. So we ended up, he is working from LA, but originally from Waco. Our entire crew is from Waco. We flew me and Janet in. And I love that community so much. And our team was incredible. It's not even just doing animation that I've never done before. It's trusting a team on the ground in a location that you cannot see until a day or 2 before the filming. I was doing prep remotely, and I find it to be, looking in retrospect, I find it to be quite empowering that we managed to work so well, because you don't meet your staff until your team until you get there. So it's really was so many of initial conversations like this on Zoom or something like that, and had to be a lot of really open communication to make sure. And on top of it all, working at an airport meant we had to coordinate with the TSA, with the Department of Homeland Security, and and the airport was under construction. We shot in April. They were supposed to be done by February. They were not. So we actually filmed in a construction area. So I'm thinking in retrospect, I can't believe how like laid back I felt during this shoot, considering all the very high stake things that were going on. So to a very long way to answer your question, but I think the combination of it, like, I'm so happy about how this project turned out. I had so much fun while we were there, and I felt continuous support from everyone around me, and I think the ability to also ask them, what do you think? I hope they feel the same way. I felt like I tried to also involve them very much, because I was like, I'm not going to pretend that I have a ton of experience in this. I don't. These people, however, they have in their specific disciplines, like a cinematographer, Rylan, like he's an incredible cinematographer. If I had questions, I asked him because he knows better than me in this specific thing. At the end of the day, it was still my choice. Like, there's some stuff that if I learned something from the Book of Ruth is to actually really trust my instincts more, because I had some sort of a vision in my head. And so I'm really glad about how it turned out. And I'm really glad about that team. It was a pleasure to work with every single one of them. And some of them got to get some merchandise signed by Janet. So that was nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your talking about the process and how teamwork played such a great role in this. It sounds like I'm so glad you're satisfied with the way that it turned out. Yeah. So what are the is it complete now or still in post-production?
It's so funny because it is technically complete, or I should say it's complete enough. Meaning, like, we started submitting it to festivals because I'm pretty happy with like the showing copy we currently have. But as we're all our perfectionists, my editor, Mayan, I know she wants to keep tweaking the color for as long as she has. Like, if I'll go to her today and I'll say, listen, we have a premiere date, it's in a week, she'll wrap it up. But I don't mind her tweaking, as much as she wants until we don't actually have a date. We have a good enough copy to show, meaning like we're not changing anything anymore in the playback, let's say. So all these changes are like small things like, oh, we need to tweak the credits a little bit, or let's do a little bit more of the color, or that there's like a big effect at the end. I think you've seen it, but I don't want to spoil. She keeps playing with it too, even though I think it looks pretty great already. So I guess it's technically done, but only as done as it will be until a festival calls us, and then we will just stop.
Okay.
I'm fine with it. It's so interesting because, like, I'm not, and I talk a lot about how medication has helped me because I have OCD and anxiety, and in general, I'm a control freak. So I'm so not like the person of, oh, it's gonna be fine. And here I'm like, I think the combination of being medicated while doing this and having that great team around me, and also just it's my second time, so I have more experience. I'm just like, okay, that's totally fine. Keep tweaking. Like to think to myself, like I'm the kind of person who'll say like, no, I need it done by a certain date and know that it's done, completely done. And this has not been the experience at all. So I'm just embracing it,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I see that you're going to be doing the festival again with this particular one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you envision it going 2 years, the same amount of time as before?
I hope so. It might not be as many festivals. I don't even know if I'll submit to as many festivals for multiple reasons, including, of course, finances. But if I learned anything, is that a lot of festivals will accept you that second year. So if you really want to have a year one that is like, let's focused on Academy Award qualifying festivals, or really control what kind of festival you premiere in. So I'm like, okay, there's a little bit more of like flexibility there. But I just wanted to have a good run. And then a good run, I guess it could mean multiple things. One of them is length, but length is not necessarily quality. So I don't mind a shorter festival, as long as I'm happy about the festivals. And also, short circuit. And also, unlike the Book of Ruth, it's like it took me 5 years to make the Book of Ruth. I think we finished it 2019. And then in 2023, which 4 years later I already was wrapped for another project. And that was like a little after we finished the circuit with the Book of Ruth. So when we just finished the Book of Ruth, I couldn't imagine myself shooting another film for a few more years. And so quickly after, we were already in the process. And now this one is not even in festivals, but I already wrote my next one. And I'm hoping, I have a few meetings this week. I hope. And that's kind of like the goal, right? Because I remember going to some festivals. Some of them I get lucky enough to return to a second year with the script, seeing people who attend almost every year with a new piece. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like financially, how do you do that? So getting to a point when it doesn't take 5 more years to do the next one, obviously is the goal, because you want to evolve as a filmmaker. And that also means putting more work out there into the world. So I'm hoping the next one will take even less time. And then the next one, and to make it my career versus this thing I do, up part-time. So, yeah.
Well, I think you have a great goal there. I guess I never really thought about that before, how the time between successive projects is something that you want to try to control and being able to have a quicker turnaround without sacrificing quality, of course. So I really enjoyed that discussion right there. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. And by the way, I'm an executive producer on But I'm a Shoe. Yeah. So
no longer a donor producer.
No.
No more using this language.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this for quite a number of years now, and I kind of know what I want in any project that I work on.
Yeah.
So I always tell the people that.
Yeah.
I also want to be honest as possible. As I say, I don't have unlimited resources. This is how much I can give. Here is what I want, and hopefully we'll be able to. I would be able to work together with these other people as well. So people have to realize that money, that's always the thing, right? It's always
of course. That's another thing about the turnaround of the next one. It's and I can talk forever about crowdfunding campaigns and how I think what these websites really give you is a platform. But at the end of the day, you're doing all the groundwork, and most of that groundwork is talk to your circles. There is a limited amount, like you can't forever go back to your friends and family and ask them to make a movie for you, to fund your next movie. So part of evolving to me is to find those external sources who want to do it because they believe in the work, not because they love you. I'm fortunate enough that the people who love me also believe in the work. Yeah. But you want people from the industry to support the work, not just for validation, but also in order to even make it happen. So, yeah.
That is another challenge, once again, to get the industry at large to know who you are and want to come to you and say, hey, I want to be part of your next film. I want to be part of your project.
100%.
Yeah, right. And that's got to be besides the financial side of it, that's got to be the toughest part of all of this.
It's 100% the toughest part, for sure. I keep thinking that if I was like a rich person, I would be elsewhere in my career, it's a sombering thought, right? Because you do realize talent is not enough. And it's kind of like a heartbreaking notion. But it is the reality of the world. So, yeah.
Yes, it is. And, I became interested in, I came up with the term support our hashtag creators because that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to do what I can. I say I can't do everything, but I do what I can. So that's the situation that I'm in. Yeah.
That's a great situation to be in if you can be in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us too, because we get supported as creatives. So.
That's right. And and even in my situation where my primary is behind the scenes, even it's one of my goals is to get my organization to become more known than it is today, so that people, so that more people will come to me asking, hey, I want to pitch my project to you. Are you interested? So of course I would say, I could say yes or no. Depends. I have to learn how to say no sometimes too. So at my end, I'm also in the situation where I'm trying to become more well known.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's switch to a different subject now. Can we talk about the importance of the Jewish creative community? And let's talk about that for a while.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because in the past month I've been to two meetings. I should actually shout them out because those people are turning us into a community that's so needed right now, as I feel like we're being banned from so many inclusive would be inclusive spaces that we helped created or helped championing. And so in the last month I've been to a lovely dinner with something called the Jewish Filmmakers Society, not to be mixed with another meeting I went to last week with the Jewish filmmakers. What was it? Not society, associate. I don't remember. They're two different, non-competing, working together when possible. Of course, a lot of overlap, but it was such a great feeling just to be among our brothers and sisters. Like I told another friend, are both creatively and as members of the tribe. Someone stood up in that next meeting I went to because we were introducing ourselves, and she's like, I am such and such, I'm Israeli. And she's like, oh, what a relief to say it in a room when I know I won't get hate for it, So it's been so meaningful, because even if at this initial stage there aren't going to be right away collaborations, though I've already seen people like seeking like work opportunities arise from it, it's just the sense of needing a community right now, because I think Jewish people feel really isolated with everything that's going on, and it expands, it extends beyond that, right? Because we can have a conversation about representation, like what was it that was just cast on Broadway, I think the last 5 years, which it's the main role is based on Jason Robert Brown, who's a Jewish composer, and they cast, I don't remember who they cast, who will definitely bring in, will definitely help increase sales, but he's not Jewish. And it's like any other minority complains about something like this, they take them seriously. When we say, why aren't you casting a Jewish person in a role that is very Jewish in essence? It's not just another thing about the characters. The character talks about being Jewish. There's a song called "Chick's a Goddess," So it's a heartbreaking that we have to fight these fights and lose them when other minorities will not even have to explain certain things. So representation is one thing. There was a whole thing about the Academy Museum in LA, with the way that they represented. Well, at first they omitted Jews altogether, which was ridiculous because this industry was established by Jewish people who couldn't really do anything else. Then when they finally did this exhibition, there was a very negative tone, because these people who started the industry, like a lot of men at that era, I'm sorry, were not great. But it's kind of like all that the exhibition highlighted. So it's like, no, it's supposed to be celebrated, and you're again making it about the bad Jews, So I think, I don't remember the last time I valued the Jewish community, as much as it's not like it's not like I distance myself. I never have. I have only been very proudly outspoken as an Israeli, as a Jewish person, especially living far from home. But it's like the need, and I'm an atheist, so it's not even a religious thing for me. The need to find a community right now comes from the deeper meaning of being Jewish. There's a group of people who understands you in a way that others just can't, and in many cases don't want to. So it's been a great relief at a very hard time. And I think every single one, if you ask any single one of these people who were in these meetings, they'll be like, oh, it was delightful to just one evening not think about every other thing you say. So
Yeah. You mentioned the Academy Museum. I've been there, and of course I've been familiar with the role that Jews played in the forming of the industry. Most of the big studios were headed by Jews in those days, and to have them not to have admitted that right from the start is kind of an unfortunate situation. For the museum, I mean, when it opened up, and then definitely a big omission.
There's something also very Jewish about that, because honestly, our entire journey, our entire story is like we always have to fight for what we end up getting. We had to fight to have a country. We had to fight. We had to fight. We constantly have to fight to be recognized. That's just another example for that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, I think it's important for us to have spoken a little bit about that subject.
Yeah. Thank you for including it. I mean,
Oh yeah, happy to do it. Yeah. So let's talk about future plans. Now, you've given me the opportunity to, in a sense, preview some of your future projects, and I'm really honored that that you trust my opinion on your scripts and whatnot. So what is on the horizon for you?
Oy, I don't even know what I can talk about. There's one thing that I'm not sure I can talk about. It's currently in stages unknown, meaning, good things are potentially happening with it, which is why I can't talk about it right now. I just finished writing a short, which I didn't even plan on, and these things sometimes just happen. It's kind of inspired. I was visiting Provence with my family. I think it was a couple summers ago at this point, maybe 3. Ever since COVID, it's like I don't know how many years it's been. And we were there, and we went to Arles, and it's a town in northern France, and this is where Vincent van Gogh had an apartment. And what he this is the time of the day, so my English just decreases with the time of the day. That's how it works. My brain starts working, like translation in my head gets slower. So he lived there for a while, and he really wanted to kind of like open a residency for artists in southern France. He wanted like rotation, kind of establish a studio there. And so the first and last person who ever took him up on it was Paul Gauguin. And what was interesting to me, and I didn't know until I got there with my family and we started talking about what's the significance of Arles, what's Arles known for, is that they actually have been roommates for 2 months in that apartment in Arles, and they fought over something. To this day, nobody knows what was the big fight, but that fight ended with the nervous breakdown during which Van Gogh cut his ear off, and the day after, Paul Gauguin kind of like, get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? So he just left. So what you do know is that they shared apartment, a very small apartment, had initially a very good relationship, which went down the drain. Something very intense happened there. And then one of them ends up with a nervous breakdown, which a year later leads to hospitalization and his eventual death at quite the early age. And the other one runs away the moment it happens. So I'm like, this sounds a little queer to me. Maybe I wonder if what happened there was not necessarily platonic, So I actually sat down and read quite a lot of letters, like a lot of Van Gogh communication from that time, and built around a lot of the quotes from the letters and stuff that he kept saying that he was doing, or kept saying that he was painting, or kept saying this is what Gauguin said to me this day, and kind of used this as like a layout to create what happened in those 2 months. So this is something very, very initial. I mean, I have a first draft, which should be probably shortened, and I'm meeting a friend who's also a producer this week to talk about it. I'm very excited because I also love her and have wanted to work with her for a while, and I met her on the circuit. So that's a great example of one of the, another reason to go out there with your movies. So I think my main two things right now is to make sure Shoe premieres and have a good festival run. Make sure this new short happens. Make sure that thing I can talk about gets eventually talked about. And I'm working about something else that I don't want to jinx, that I kind of finished. It's something way more lengthy, a play. And I finished the first draft yesterday. I blitzed through it. It's amazing. I wrote it in a month, and that includes the 2 weeks that my sister was here. So I was very passionate about this specific project. So that first draft is done, and now I'm doing rewrites. And I actually did rewrites up until we got on this conversation. So hopefully we'll be in a solid place soon. And again, much shorter. I always kind of I prefer writing everything I want to, and then go through the pains of cutting it, then in real time say, I don't think I need this, because I want to see it on the page and how it looks as a part of a whole. And then I feel like I'm way more informed to make the decision of whether or not it needs to stay there. So this is what's happening right now. And also I'm looking for a job. So if anyone, I'll use this opportunity and it reminded me, because when you said you're sitting on a board of an organization that helps fighting human trafficking. I think we talked about this, because I spent 5 years as the manager of communication for a nonprofit for at-risk youth, Israeli at-risk youth. And I'm still working with them as a freelancer, and their mission is sacred and really close to my heart. But I am trying to kind of make the transfer in through more freelancing in production, because at this point I have a lot of experience in event planning and production, now directing too, obviously a lot of content writing. So that's another way of trying to shift my life in a different direction. So this is the future, hopefully.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, you mentioned about freelancing. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're interested in using your services?
Well, this website that I see you put, that's the best way. There's a contact information there, and I'm also on Instagram. My name is my personal Instagram, and then there's Grace Dragon Productions, which is a work-related Instagram. So I'm actually quite easy to get a hold of.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned it, because some people who will be tuning into this podcast will be viewing it on an audio only platform. So I always have to remember to have people actually say these things, which you did. Yeah. Anyway, I'm so excited to hear about the play that you're working on. It's amazing.
I'm excited too, though.
And one of the things that amazes me about creatives, you mentioned how it seems like the word just flowed right out of your mind onto the page for this.
Sometimes, and sometimes it's the Van Gogh one was so hard. I think it was hard because I couldn't really start writing plot until I was done going through all of the letters, and that was not fun research. You know what I mean? And also, I very often write. I call it from the out, the inside out, meaning often I'll have just a random line of dialogue go into my head, and then I'll develop a whole story around it. With this, I couldn't do it. I had to rely on the words of someone else. I had to rely on the letters as a foundation. So it was a much more frustrating project. And in the middle of it all, a war started. And so for 7-8 months, I just couldn't write at all. And I think finishing writing that actually unblocked something. So I'm hoping I'm, on the other side of whatever that was, and do rewrite so I can get to the feature that I've been wanting to write for 3 years now.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm looking forward to that, of course. And when the time is right, please reach out to me about these projects, the play and the Van Gogh project.
Thank you.
I together
will.
On it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, very, very early on, but yeah, hopefully the turnaround of this one will be much shorter. So we'll see.
Yeah, right. Very interesting. The accelerated, timelines to get these things out quicker. That's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's see. Oh yeah, so we're gonna pause again for another commercial, and we will be right back. I'm Alan Greenstein, founder and producer at Support Our Hashtag Creatives. If you make something, albeit make a movie, start a business, write a book, make a physical product, run a nonprofit, promote people, are a songwriter, etc., you too are a creative, and I would love to have you be a guest on the Support Our Hashtag Creatives podcast. If you want to be featured on this podcast, please use the contact tab on my website at supportourcreatives.com or email me directly at alan@supportourcreatives.com. Okay. Well, is there anything you would like to talk about that we haven't touched upon?
Look, it's very dangerous to give me free reign to I want to. I think we covered quite the nice, variety of subjects, and I can keep doing this for another hour, which is very dangerous. So unless you have any questions or concerns or comment.
I want one more thing. Yeah. You mentioned about what do you think about artificial intelligence and the another topic like that.
Oh gosh, God. I think the only thing it's good for is for research through ChatGPT, which has been very useful for me. I do not enjoy its involvement in art, or I should say the fact that it's completely unregulated. It's tough. It's tough because I was one of the people who voted no for the most recent following the SAG strike. I voted no against this agreement. I know it won by a big gap. I think 75% of the people who voted yes, 25% voted no. But a 25% no vote means that a big chunk of your membership is not happy with what you've done. And we kept hearing that the technology is simply not there. Our main concern is that we will be replaced. Obviously, also the concerns of the writers. Otherwise, they wouldn't have started a strike as well. Our main concern is being replaced. And as someone who spent many years, I think 5 or 6 years, doing background work, I always say I think background people are the first ones who's going to go, and stunt people. Why are you going to hire a stunt person if you can create it? You can scan them and create it artificially. So when they tell you the technology is not there, and then you see deep fake videos and you're like, oh my God, the technology is very much there. You're like, okay, told you so. And now we're all kind of screwed, not to be very pessimistic, but it's something that's talked quite a lot about in the industry. And I've seen cinematographers mention their concern, and it's really hard unless there are rules to really protect us from loss of income. And it's not just going to remain in the entertainment industry. It's going to extend beyond. So there was this funny, I don't think it was like a parody or anything. I think it was a real thing that a few days ago, McDonald's started using those AI-operated drive-thrus. Have you seen that?
No.
And there was this video of a woman who got so frustrated because she went through one of those drive-thrus and tries to order ice cream, like their soft serve, and it kept registers like ice cream with bacon, and she just like ended up yelling at the machine, and McDonald's like discontinued it. I'm like, I don't understand how in our industry we managed to do deep fakes, and in another industry, regardless, the point is I don't think we need that. Have a guy at the drive-thru so another person can have a job, If it's meant to make our lives easier, but it means that so many more people lose their jobs, don't have an income, then, I'm a very big Terminator, ex machina. No, I don't want this. Please don't do this. We don't need this. So, yeah. And it's funny because I'm a techie person. I don't hate technology at all, but there are certain things that I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want an Alexa in my apartment. I do not want my machines to talk to me. I want them to remain machines, So, yeah, that's me. Maybe I'm a conservative in that sense, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that. And we'll we'll be wrapping it up now. So will you please repeat the two major ways that people can get in touch with you?
Mm-hmm. So my website is chendrachman.com. I'll spell it for the people who listen. It's C like cat, H, E, N like Nancy, D like dog, R like Rachel, A, C like cat, H, M like mom, A, N like Nancy.com. And then Grace Dragon Productions on Instagram. Just search for Grace Dragon Productions and you will find it and you'll find me.
Yeah. And tell quickly, how did you come up with the name Grace Dragon Productions?
Oh, that's very easy. That's just what my name means. So Chen is Grace in Hebrew. Drachman, which is my last name, is Dragon Man in German. So Grace Dragon Productions, just it's not even my alter ego. It's just my name.
Yeah. I never made that connection.
More poetic,
yeah,
exciting presentation, Yeah.
Yeah, I never made that connection. I never made that connection until you told me, but I think that's so cool.
Now you know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, everyone, follow Chen Drachman, and it's been such a pleasure having you with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm going to say good night now, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Good night.
Here's a message about Crystal Starnes, advocate for victims, and podcaster.
Are you an entrepreneur, actor, music artist, or someone trying to make a difference in the community, or have a story that could help someone suffering in silence? If your answer is yes, then you need to check out Crystal Starnes' various podcast shows that she produces and hosts. Come on one of her shows and make a difference. Promote your business on her platforms. Ask her about package deals to get your brand more noticed. Want a commercial about your business done by her voice? She also offers package deals for that service. You can find her at crystalstarneshow.com and voiceforvictimsradio.com. Also, if you want access to all her podcast shows and blogs, join her community awareness page for just $4.99 a month. That's right, just $4.99 a month. Then you would have access at a click of a button to her various platforms. Crystal Starnes is trying to make a difference for all people in the world. She wants to help as many people as she can so no one is suffering in silence. Anyone who has a vision and wants to achieve their dream, she has a passion to help promote you to get you to the next level of success.